Today's lesson is 1.5, Inverses of Functions Graphically. A function is a rule that takes inputs and produces outputs. An inverse function does the opposite, undoing what the original has done. So if I take my original function f of x, I'm going to undo what was done to it to create my inverse function, which I call f of -1 of x. These are just the function notations for the original function and its inverse function. So let's go ahead and take a look at what would it mean to graphically do an inverse of a function. So here's example 1. We're going to write the inverse of the given function, and then we're going to go ahead and provide the domain and the range for both. When I have to do the inverse of a function, all I simply have to do is switch my x and my y. That's all I have to do. Now this is an ordered pair, so this function is a set of ordered pairs. So I'm just going to come in and I'm going to put x and y, x and y. Remember, every ordered pair has an x and a y value. And so I'm going to label that in the function. When I come to go ahead and do f of -1 of x, do the inverse of it, I'm going to start with the squiggle. And I'm going to take each one of my ordered pairs and I'm simply going to switch x and y. I'm simply going to switch them. So my first ordered pair would simply become -5, comma 1. Let's go ahead and switch the next ordered pair. Simply going to switch them. So I'm going to get 2, -4. You guys got the pattern. Go ahead and complete it. All you have to do is switch the order. 0, -2. There we go, and finish with the squiggle. Let's go ahead and talk about the domain and the range. So let's go ahead and do f of x, which is my function, which was my original function. And let's talk about the domain. All right, so if you remember, the domain are your x values. The domain are your x values. We're going to list them in what's called set notation, which means we're going to start with the squiggle, and we're just going to put them in numerical order from smallest to largest. So the smallest x value I see, remember I'm only looking at these ones right here, would be the -4. So I'm going to start with -4. Comma, then -3, then -2, and then +1. They must be in order from smallest to largest. My range, let me go ahead and switch my color to range. My range are my y values, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to put them in order, once again, from smallest to largest. I'm looking at these ones right here. The smallest one I see is -5. And then I see 0, 1, comma 2. There we go. Now, for my inverse, f of -1 of x, which is my inverse, watch what happens. My domain, I'm now going to look at these ones. These are my x values in my inverse function. So I'm going to start with -5, and then 0, and then 1, and then 2. They have to be in numerical order. And the range are going to be my y values, which are these values right here. The smallest of those is -4, then -3, and -2, then 1. Now take a look at what happened with my domain and my range. I've simply switched They've simply switched. That's because, remember, this is X and this is Y. And when we switch them, this was Y and this was X because they just simply switch spots. Okay, so your range will become your domain, the domain of your inverse, and your domain of your original will become the range of your inverse. All right, let's try another one. Let's try one with some tables. Find the inverse of the function for the given functions below. All right, here we go. So all we need are the inverses, and I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to write the word inverse, and I'm just going to go ahead and use the same format that they used up above. So I'm going to create another table. I'm going to keep it X, I'm going to keep it Y, but all I have to do is switch. So the 15 moves over here and the 5 moves over there, right? From this one right here. The 8 and the 16, the 6 and the 18 are going to switch places. Likewise, the 21 and the 7 are going to switch places. That's it. Let's try this the next one. My inverse. There we go. I almost forgot how to spell it for a second. I'm going to keep my table as X and Y, but I'm just going to take and simply switch these two. -6, -3, 0 and 0. Even though I've switched it, it is still the same. And 6 and 3. Domain, domain, range, range. Take a look at what happened. Your domain becomes your range becomes your domain for your inverse. They just simply switched. Happened again. Domain becomes range becomes domain. All right, let's go ahead and now take a look at an actual graph. All right, graph the inverse of the following function. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm actually going to graph this function. I'm going to create myself a table, and then I'm just going to switch up, and I'm going to go ahead and create, excuse me, I'm going to create my inverse. So here we go. Just a quick reminder, let me grab my blue, that my slope is -2/3. Remember, the slope is telling me how to move. The negative, I'm going to think of it as being with the top. Okay, so I always like to think of the negative, if there is one, as being with the numerator. So I'm going to move down 2 and 3 to the right. Well, I have to know where to start graphing, and that is what B is for, my y-intercept, which is -2 in this case. So what I did was I just took my y equals mx plus b, and I went ahead and found m, and I went ahead and found b. I'm going to use these two to help me graph. So I'm going to start on the y-axis. Here's the y-axis at a point at -2. Then I'm simply going to move 2 down, 1, 2, and then 3 to the right. 1, 2, 3. There's my next point. 2, 1, 2, 3. Sorry, I lost it. There we go. And I'm just going to do this pattern a couple of times. I could continue to do this until I ran out of space. Okay, now this only allows me to see what's happening in this part of the graph. I know that the graph continues in this direction because it is aligned. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to my beginning and I'm going to flip the signs. Okay, so I'm going to count 2 up and 3 to the left, 2 up and 3 to the left. Okay, so 2 up, 1, 2, 3 to the left. And I can do this until I run out of space, or I could just go a couple of times. Good enough. Okay, all right, I'm going to go ahead and connect these points together the best I can. There we go. That looks pretty good. I'm going to put my arrows on either end to show that my line is continuing forever and ever. I can go ahead and make a table. I'm going to go ahead and make the table in this direction simply because I think it'll fit better. And I want to make sure that I have my my y-intercept in there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make some bars here so that I can have my y-intercept and about 3 other points. My y-intercept is going to be this point right here at 0, -2. I'm going to go ahead and do 2 points above it and put them here, and then 2 points below it and put them there. That's always a good table to have. So this point right here would be -3, 0. And this point right here would be -6, +2. This point right here would be 3, -4. And the last point I'm going to put in my table is 5, -6. Wait, that's not correct. Hold on. 2, 1, 2. Oh, it should be over here. Hold on, that wasn't right. Oh no, go away. There we go. Negative, or it should be 6, -6. There we go. Let me see if I can make the line go. There we go. That's better. 6, -6. There we go. So now to simply do my inverse, now if I am simply going to do my inverse, remember all I have to do is switch my x with my y. I'm going to do that with my table. I'm going to keep x in the top, I'm going to keep y in the bottom, but I'm going to take this point right here, -6, +2, and I'm going to switch it. So it's going to be +2, -6. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to take this point, -3, 0, and I'm going to switch it. 0, -3. I'm going to take my y-intercept here, and I'm going to go ahead and switch it, -2, 0. I'm going to take my point here, and I'm going to switch it, -4, 3. And I'm going to go ahead and switch the last one, -6, 6. Now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to plot my points in my inverse, and I'm going to just switch to my purple pen so that you can see them. So +2, -6, 0 and -3, -2 and 0, -4 and 3, and -6 and 6. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and connect them together. I still got a line. I still got a line. They are intersecting. They are intersecting. They are intersecting right here at this point. But that was it. That's all you had to do. That's all you had to do is just graph it. Let's try one more. Let's try one more. Graph the inverse of f of x equals 5x plus 2. So here we go. Remember, it's y equals mx plus b. So my m, my slope, is going to be 5, right? Because this is my m. Remember, 5 is a fraction if you put it over 1. So we're going to go 5 up and 1 to the right. My b, here we go. My b is the +2 right here. Here's my mx plus b. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start by graphing the point at +2, because that's what b equals, because remember, that's my y-intercept. And then I'm going to move 5 up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1 to the right. I can't go up 5 more, 1, 2, 3, because I run out of space, so that's enough. And then I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1 to the left. I could do that one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down and 1 to the left. All right, I can't go any more. There are my points. There's only 4 of them this time. Connect them together the best you can. Let's go ahead and make our table. You only need the 4 points in the table, and then you're just going to take your table and reverse it to go ahead and get your new point. So I'm going to start with the point at the bottom. It is -2, -8. And then I've got -1, -3. I've got 0, and 2. And the one at the top is 1 and 7. I'm going to go ahead and get my inverse. And remember, to do the inverse, I'm simply going to switch the x and the y values from the points up above. So this point right here is going to come down and become -8, -2. That's it. Then we're going to go ahead and plot these. Next, it's going to change to -3, -1. It's going to change to 2, 0. And lastly, it's going to change to 7, 1. All right, let's go ahead and graph these. -8, -2, -3, -1, 2, 0, and 7, 1. There it is. Perfect. All right, the very last thing I'd like to talk to you about in this lesson is how to evaluate the inverse functions. So let's go ahead and evaluate the following function, which is f of x equals 1/2 x plus 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to graph this function. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and I'm going to put some ordered pairs on there. So remember, I can always think of it in terms of y equals mx plus b. So my m is going to be 1/2. I'm going to move 1 up and 2 to the right, or I can switch it, 1 down and 2 to the left. And my b, my starting point, is going to be +2. So let's go ahead and start at +2 on the y-axis, and then let's move 1 up and 2 to the right, 1 up and 2 to the right, 1 up and 2 to the right, 1 up and 2 to the right. And I'm just going to simply do that till I run out of space. Now it's very important on this one that you do this until you run out of space. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to go backwards. So go back to the beginning, which is right here, your B point. That's why I like to think they use B. And I'm going to go backwards, 1 down and 2 to the left, 1 down and 2 to the left, 1 down and 2 to the left, 1 down, 2 to the left. There we go. There's our graph. And let's go ahead and put some ordered pairs on our graph. Let's go ahead and put some ordered pairs on our graph. Like this one right here, which is 0, 2. This one right here, which is 2, 3. This one, which is 4, 4. This one, which is 6, 5. Is that right? Did I mess up? I think I might have messed up. I skipped one. Hold on, guys. I skipped. Hold on. There we go. All right, so this one is 2, 3. This one is 4, 4. And this one is 6, 5. There we go. That should be good. And then let's go ahead and do the negatives one. So we have -2, -1. We have -4, 0. And we have -6, -1. Now remember, each of these ordered pairs are an x and a y. Each of these ordered pairs are an x and a y. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a couple of them. Remember x, y, x, y. Okay, each one. You could do that for all of them. So take a look over here at what I'm asking you to evaluate. Now we've seen this notation before. We've seen f of 3. And when we talked about this 3 is in the x place, so this is saying x is equal to 3. I just have to go where x is equal to 3 right here and go up to my graph, and the y is my answer. But notice the difference right here. This is the inverse. So this is no longer x. This is actually saying y equals 3. What is the x value? Okay, y is equal to 3. What is the x value? Well, take a look. We can go find that. Look at your y's. There's got to be one that is 3. There it is. What's my answer? 2. Oops, there we go. Let's try it again. Remember, we're talking about the inverse. We're talking about the inverse. This is the inverse. So this is not x. This is actually saying y equals 0. So go find the y that is 0. Remember, oh, there it is. This is your answer right here. -4. Let's try the last one. Remember that negative says this 4 is a y. Go find where y is 4. There it is. This is your answer right here, the x value. That was easy. Now, if you don't want to graph, what could you do? If you don't want to graph, what could you do? Well, you could set up and solve an equation. So let me just go ahead and put this in a lighter gray color. You could substitute 3 in for your f of x and then go ahead and solve this equation for the variable x. If we solve this, we should get 2. I'm only going to do this one. Remember, when you solve, you are solving for the variable x. So you're going to go ahead and be on this side. You're going to move that 2 by subtracting it because you want it to cancel out. 3 minus 2 is 1. To get rid of the fraction in front of your x, it is being multiplied, so you could divide by 1/2. You could also multiply by the reciprocal of your fraction. 2 over 1 is the same as 2. 2 times 1 is 2. Take a look at that. We got the exact same answer, but we just used our graph instead.